Ryan Powell of I Run Far here with Gary Robbins before the 2012 the North Face Ultra Trail to Mont-Blanc. Excited to be here?
Super stoked to be here. Absolutely. There's fewer places in the world I could get this excited about a race this difficult.
Yeah. How difficult do you think it's going to be?
We all know it's one of the most difficult races out there for numerous reasons, and again, for the third consecutive year, we get to have weather as an additional factor in the race. So I think this is about as tough as it gets.
Yeah, it's kind of nice right now, but that's not going to be the case.
We have a 45-second window where it's not hammering down rain on us right now.
That's right. That's right. You live in Vancouver, so you're used to cold and rainy?
This is 8 months of my life right here, so yeah, I feel like I'm home field advantage even though I'm nowhere near home. Home weather,
yeah.
Home weather advantage.
Yeah, it could be some nice snow tomorrow evening and
They're
Saturday.
calling for snow up on the passes, yeah, so we might sneak some small skis in the kit or something and see what happens.
That's right. How have you been set gear-wise? I was just talking to Luke Nelson. He was scrambling to pick up extra layers and extra waterproof gear.
It's quite funny because I arrived a few weeks ago and I spent 4 days going around the mountain. I really wanted to know what I was getting into. And in 4 days I saw one cloud and it was 35 degrees most days in the 90s. And I was loving everything and just thinking in my head, I don't think this is what's going to happen on race day. And my now fiance and I have done so many runs this year where we've had atrocious weather. Some of the worst weather runs I've had of my life. And every time it happened, I just said, I think this might be foreshadowing. So when I left North Vancouver, I actually brought 4 waterproof jackets with me, 5 pairs of gloves, 6 hand warm, like I completely packed for the absolute worst case scenario, and it looks like that's how it's going to unfold. So I left North Vancouver anticipating this, and it's unfolding like this right now.
Gotcha. So you're not phased at all by the change?
I have major circulatory issues with my fingers, my hands, but I've learned how to address that over the years. Yeah. And that's the #1 thing that I really need to stay on top of is just circulation so that I can continue to fuel myself. But outside of that small thing with the fingers, I don't mind running in the rain and the snow. And
gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're used to running in mud.
Absolutely.
What's your favorite Montreal mud shoe?
Favorite Montreal mud shoe? I'm a big fan of the Mountain Masochist. I've been in the Masochist since about 60 seconds after I tried it on when it first came out. So that's my go-to shoe. I love running on that in all terrain.
Gotcha. Cool. You've had a rough couple years. I mean, since Western States, was it last year that?
So Western States 2010.
2010, yeah.
And then that was obviously in July, late June. Yeah. And then in August of 2010, I ran a 215-kilometer trail successfully. And then in October of 2010, things went south. I snapped my foot, Jones fracture, which, if anyone knows, it's a complex fracture. It's not your standard 6-week healing process. I was on crutches for 3.5 months. Got off crutches, thought I was good to go, had about 90 days of clearance, broke the exact same fracture a second time, had a helicopter rescue in Hawaii, which was actually quite cool. And I was back on crutches for another 4.5 months, and then a walking boot after that. So in 2011, for the most part, I was on crutches for 8.5 months, which is not fun.
Yeah.
So took a very strategic and slow build back at things.
When did you start working back from that?
So I didn't even get out of a walking boot until mid-October.
Okay.
And then I just walked and hiked for the rest of 2011, and on January 1st I ran 10 kilometers, and that was a big success for me. It was a nice little turning point. The month of January I ran 150 kilometers. The month of February 250. The month of March right around 350. I think April was 450. May about 450. And June I actually had my biggest mileage month of my life, so it was very positive. I had over 650 kilometers.
Okay.
I know a lot of guys do more than that, but for me it's not something I've ever gotten up to. So June was one of the best running months I've ever had, so I was really happy about that. And then in July I caught a cold and I DNF'd 2 races in 14 days, having only ever DNF'd 1 in my life. So I come into this with hesitation, but I'm excited and I'm well rested.
So how are you going to approach it on race day?
So going around the mountain, I think the one thing that I really learned was it's just a beast of a race, and it's completely unrelenting. It's just, as soon as you think you've gotten past a difficult section, there's more to come and more to come and more to come. So my strategy for race day is just patience. It's absolute patience from start to finish, and if I can start intelligently, which is very difficult with 2,300 runners just streaming in behind you, I think that's where a lot of people start to make mistakes the first few hours of the race. So my intention is to start at a respectable pace and not be in the top 100 runners for the first section of the race, and then to try my best to work my way up from there. Like I said, 2011 didn't get much in, so just finishing this route is going to be a success for this year. There's a dog that looked like it was going to come pee on our feet.
Yeah.
So start intelligently, be back in the high double digits, even back near 100, and then make a push from there and see how it goes. Number one goal is to finish. I really would. I mean, I tweeted out many months ago that I wanted to go for top 10. Top 10 is an exceptional achievement at a race like this, and it's a stretch for me this year, just given everything that's happened. So we'll see how it unfolds.
Well, great. I mean, that strategy might work well for Mike Foot last
Mike
year.
Foot is kind of
11th, but
yes, exactly. He missed by one,
but he was way back with the pack.
And this was just it. And I've been watching this race for years, and Mike Foot ran what I consider to be one of the most intelligent races last year, and he did miss top 10 by one spot. But it's kind of the Mike Wolf plan this year, and I hear Mike Wolf is super fit, and he's going for it from the start this year. Did I say Foot?
You said Wolf.
I said Wolf? Yeah. Foot. That's what I meant.
We know what you meant. Well, have fun out there, Gary.
Okay.
It's good seeing you back on the course.
Thank you very much. You didn't want to put me on the spot on the question about the runners. I'm ready for it.
Bonus question here. Last night, Gary Robbins sold North America up the river.
That is not how it happened. I will defend my honor right now.
All right, dear Mr. Honorable Gary Robbins, what do you think Americans' problems have been here at North America?
Let's go back a step. The Montreal team was being interviewed by the French press, and the question posed was, why is it that so many runners from out of France have come this way and not finished the race and not had success and not come back, and why is the history dictate that North American runners have not had success here, and do we believe that this is the case? And I said you can't argue with facts, and the facts are North American runners have not had success here, and it's very unfortunate, but it's very true. And then also said that the European runners have had great success coming over to our races. You are going to come say hello. Hi. The European racers have come over to North America and had great success, so it only fuels the argument. And the one thing, so what I agreed with his statement. You can't argue with facts. North American runners haven't done well, but my take on it was, it's very culturally different in these parts than it is at home, and the races are very different as well. And this race, although you can compare it to Hard Rock and other events, there's a mountain culture that just pervades and exists here that we don't have at home. And as an example, when I was out doing this route, I saw like mothers breastfeeding at 8,500 feet, and families everywhere, and women all over the place through the passes, which is fantastic. And it's very unique. We don't have that. And my take is this: our North American races a lot of them are much faster, and you need to be a very efficient runner. And from what I see, a lot of the top North American talent comes from a track background, and we see that. We can see whether they were successful competitively or not, they did race track at some point. They went through varsity.
Everybody. Yeah.
Exactly, every single one of the elite runners. And you see the European runners, it's not the case. I don't know, I have not seen a history of any of these runners having anything to do with track and road and marathon. They come from mountains. They're mountaineers. Yeah. They're born into the mountains. They've been going into the mountains their entire lives. If they're in their 30s, they've been going into the mountains for 25 years, 30 years. And that alone, just the ability to take care of yourself in the mountains, in and of itself is very unique, and I think that's what makes this race more challenging than most. And that's why the Europeans have had great success here, and why I think North Americans are starting to figure it out a little bit more, and I think the North Americans are poised to have success in the coming years, starting with Mike Foot tomorrow, where I believe he's going to have a top 10 finish, which hasn't happened very often here.
So I think we're going to call this the GR hypothesis, because Jeff Rose also wrote something very similar on I Run Far a couple weeks ago.
Who's Jeff Rose?
Some guy.
Some guy? Yeah.
One of your Montreal teammates.
Isn't he a has-been?
But he was saying the same thing, was sort of that to have success in the mountain 100 milers, you need to have spent
that's right.
time.
Yes, I did catch that. You need to be comfortable going out into the mountains all day by yourself.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what this culture is. It's what it dictates. It's what people are born into. And it's not the same as back home. So I think that's where they've had success in these races. More.
You're not going out in the mountains by yourself, but have fun out there in the mountains this weekend.
Thank you very much. Au revoir.